What does it really take to survive something completely unimaginable? Well, today we're going to dive into the 53-day ordeal of a mother and her daughter. It's an absolutely harrowing story of terror and courage, and a fight for freedom that, you'll see, continued long after their escape.
So we're not actually going to start at the beginning of this story. Instead, we're going to drop right into the middle of the nightmare with just a single phone call, a desperate, chilling cry for help that was recorded by the FBI.
That's the voice of 8-year-old Beth Stauffer. And when you hear this, she's speaking to her father for the very first time in a whole month. And you better believe every single word is being monitored.
Okay, so the date is June 15th, 1980. It's Father's Day, of all days. Beth's kidnapper has, for some reason, allowed her to make this call. It's this cruel gesture that gives her dad, Irv, just a brief, agonizing moment of hope. You can hear her father is just desperate for any piece of information, but Beth's answers are so short, so cryptic. I mean, can you even imagine the fear in her voice, knowing her captor is standing right there, watching her? This single, heartbreaking exchange just makes the whole thing even more terrifying.
So how on earth did it come to this? I mean, to really understand that phone call, we have to go all the way back to the very beginning of the whole ordeal.
It's all kicked off on what should have been a totally ordinary day for the Stauffer family. They were about to make this huge, life-changing move. But for one man, this was his last chance to act on an obsession that had been festering for over a decade.
Right, so here we are, May 16th, 1980, in Roseville, Minnesota. Mary Stauffer, her husband Irv, and their 2 kids are literally packing up their lives. They're getting ready to move to the Philippines. Mary decides to take Beth for a quick haircut. You know, one last simple errand before their big adventure. They never made it home.
In the parking lot, a man walks up to their car. Mary, she just thinks he's lost, maybe needs directions. But then she sees it. He has a gun. He puts it right to her daughter's side and says, "I need a ride." And just like that, their nightmare had begun.
Just try to imagine the sheer terror. You're forced to drive your own car with a gunman sitting right next to you. Then, at a red light, a police car pulls up directly behind them. Hope and fear must have been just warring inside her. The captor leans in and whispers, "If that police car turns the same way we turn, you're dead." The light turns green, the police car goes straight, and their one chance for rescue just vanishes.
At this point, Mary has absolutely no idea who this person is or what he wants. Is it a carjacking? A robbery? The truth, as it turns out, is so much more personal and honestly way more terrifying.
This was no random act of violence, not at all. The man holding them captive was Ming Sin Shu. And get this, he was a former student Mary had taught in high school 15 years earlier. She didn't recognize him at all, but he knew everything about her.
And the motive here is, it's just almost unbelievable. This entire decade-long obsession, the stalking, the kidnapping, it was all triggered by a grade Mary gave him 15 years ago. And it wasn't even an F, it was a B-. He claimed it ruined his perfect academic record, and for that, he was going to ruin her life.
And his obsession went deep. He wasn't just fixated on the past, he was actively stalking them. I mean, watching the house from the woods with binoculars, learning all these intimate details from Beth's favorite Barbie doll to where they hid the spare key. This wasn't random, it was meticulously planned. So after an hour of driving at gunpoint, the terror just escalated to a whole new level. This wasn't just a car ride anymore, it was the beginning of a brutal, long-term captivity.
Ming forces both of them into the trunk of the car. They're gagged, tied up, just plunged into darkness. As they're struggling, Ming opens the trunk to retie their ropes, and at that exact moment, 2 young boys on bicycles ride up, just curious about why this car is stopped here. One of the boys, just 6 years old, peers into the trunk. He sees this woman and a little girl bound together with duct tape, and before he can even really react, he's grabbed and thrown right in there with them. His name was Jason Wilkman.
After a short drive, the car stops. The trunk opens, and Jason is taken out. And then, silence. Mary and Beth are moved into a small house and locked into this tiny bedroom closet. The doorknob had been removed from the inside. They don't know it yet, but little Jason Wilkman, the boy who just saw too much, has been murdered.
53 days. Just let that sink in for a moment. For nearly 2 months, this tiny, dark closet would be their entire world. 53 days of darkness, of uncertainty, and a desperate, desperate struggle just to keep hope alive.
And this timeline, it only shows a few of the key moments in their long captivity. Ming's twisted fantasy even included forcing them on a quote-unquote family trip to Chicago in an RV. He made them watch fireworks on the 4th of July. Always, always under the threat of a gun. Each day was just a new kind of psychological torture.
But here's the thing. They never stopped fighting. During that awful RV trip, Mary cleverly used a traveler's check to pay for gas, hoping the transaction would somehow flag the FBI. It didn't. And little Beth, in this moment of incredible bravery, tore the blinds right off a window and screamed for help to some passing teenagers. They just laughed. They thought she was playing a game. Can you imagine the crushing disappointment?
As the days turned into weeks, hope really started to fade. And in one heartbreaking moment, a despairing Beth asked her mother this very question, remembering a Bible story. Mary, despite her own fears, had to find the strength to tell her daughter that, well, maybe God would choose a different way to help them.
With hope just about gone, Mary realized something crucial. Help wasn't coming. If they were going to survive this, they would have to save themselves. It was time for a very, very desperate gamble.
The real turning point came when Ming excitedly announced that he'd found a new house, somewhere far away where they would all live as his family. For Mary, that was it. That was the final straw. Any last shred of hope of being found was just gone. She knew he would never, ever let them go. It was now or never.
So while Ming was out, Mary just stared at the closet door hinges. With no tools, just her fingernails, she started working on one of the hinge pins. Incredibly, it started to come loose. But Beth panicked, terrified of what Ming would do. Mary had to calm her daughter down, explaining that this was their only chance. Chained together, they snuck to the kitchen phone and dialed a number she had forced herself to memorize just days earlier, from the back of a passing police car.
Those were the first words she spoke to the dispatcher, so calm, so clear. She explained who she was, where they were, and that their captor was armed and dangerous. It's just an absolutely incredible display of courage under unimaginable pressure. Now, the dispatcher told her to stay inside and wait for the police. But Beth had another idea. She insisted they should hide outside. Trusting her daughter's gut instinct, Mary went against the official instructions. They slipped out the back door, still chained together, and hid behind a parked car. And it was a decision that almost certainly saved their lives, as police ended up storming the house expecting to find them inside.
Their escape, believe it or not, was just the beginning of the next chapter. The long road to justice and the even longer journey of reclaiming their lives from the man who stole 53 days from them.
When the police finally found them huddled behind that car, Mary said it was the simple things she noticed first. The smell of the air, the feeling of the sun. Just that profound, overwhelming sense of freedom after so long in the dark.
But their ordeal was not over, not by a long shot. In a shocking display of just remorseless violence, during one of the trials, Ming actually leaped from the defense table and attacked Mary on the witness stand, slashing her face with a knife he'd smuggled into the courtroom.
Even from behind bars, his obsession just continued. He sent threats saying he would kill her and her children the moment he got out. He even tried to hire a fellow inmate as a hitman, offering $50,000 for the murder of Mary and Beth. Thankfully, that inmate went straight to the FBI. But despite all the continued threats and the trauma, Mary refused to let him have any more power over her. Her resolve is just perfectly captured in this simple, powerful statement. She decided that he had taken enough, and she was not going to live the rest of her life in fear.
Justice was ultimately served. For the kidnapping of Mary and Beth, and for the murder of Jason Wilkman, Ming Sen Shu was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. Parole was repeatedly denied, and he stayed right there, incarcerated until he died.
Which really leads us to the most important question of all. After an ordeal like this, one that continued to haunt them long after their escape, how do you even begin to heal? How do you possibly reclaim a life?
You know, I think we have to leave the final word to Mary Stauffer herself. This is her message, not just for other survivors, but really for all of us. She proves that your trauma does not have to be the thing that defines you, that with courage and with love, it is possible to heal, to leave the resentment behind, and to build a full, beautiful life even after the darkest of tragedies.